welcome to another gorgeous day on planet Earth and another day of Dose of Did You Know, where intriguing, unique, inspiring individuals come to talk about love and life and how basically all that good stuff has gotten to them to this amazing place of where they are. And today with me is Greg Aldway. You're out in Tennessee, right, Greg?
I sure am. Yep, in Middle Tennessee.
Okay, because sometimes I make stuff up in my mind, and they're like, "No, Danielle, we've had this conversation. Why do you have me in Oklahoma?" I'm like, I don't know. You must have reminded me. But score for Coach Danny today that I got it right. But Greg, you were an amazing man from the time that Andrew. God, I love that man. Andrew connected us. We had our first
He's awesome.
conversation. I was like, I love everything about you. You are just so inspirational. You are basically that perfect model of don't let life tell you what to do. You tell your life what you're going to do with it. And that's really what encompasses my love and heart for you. But tell the world about Greg.
That's awesome. Well, Danny, I appreciate you having me on today, and I appreciate what you said, and that is a lot about. So I've been through some challenges along the way. At a younger age, at 3, my mom passed away, and then I was abused as a child and ran away and was institutionalized as an adolescent and joined the Marine Corps and the delayed entry program at the age of 17 from a group home, and went on to do infantry and go on to do 3 tours in Iraq. And I attempted to go on a 4th, but that was in 2007. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and that was the big, honestly, probably the best thing that could have happened to me. It was took me to the lowest time in my life, really, just being so. I was pretty mentally set on dying at war, and I figured that this would be an honorable thing, and I wasn't sure what else I would actually do with my life. So when that was taken away, that was able to, that really took me to my lowest point, but ultimately proved to be a blessing. And roughly about 2011, I got to my lowest point and really started rebuilding from there. And now, 9-10 years into a journey of rebuilding myself and learning who I am as a person, I really just do my best to share back with anyone that's one chapter behind me now.
Yeah. So we're gonna dig into all of this because I feel like you just. When you say it, you just say it because we don't have forever, but you just sugarcoat everything. And I want to really talk about it so people can, because there's so much pain and suffering out there. And I have to say, hey to Andrew, who's watching. You missed your shout out, Andrew. Sorry. But want to show. But we fail to realize when we go through these things that we are not alone. Think of all the people in this world. And with social media now and the usage of social media, I said there are great uses of it and there are very poor uses of it. But it gives us a sense of delusion, of we lose our reality because everybody looks the best. I mean, goodness sakes, we have filters and you can even put makeup on. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do that portrays an unrealistic view of the world. So when you're going through something or you've been through something, I feel like it makes it that much harder to not feel isolated.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, a big piece I feel like is for a lot of people, and I know for myself, so from experiences, literally what you're saying, validating what took place. Especially, I'll kind of hone in at the moment on child abuse and things of that nature. When I say things of that nature, things with children, once those children become adults, we at some level we attempt to capture it as a society to help those kids at some level. And I say that because people, I had the Division of Youth and Family Services in my house almost every week, and everything seemed up and up with the lies they were being told. But past that, those kids, if they survive, they become adults, and then in the face of discussing or dealing with those issues, we as an adult society don't know how to actually help that person or even validate that it ever even took place. So it's almost like, we all got beat, keep moving. And so a lot of times, like you said, the delusion of day-to-day life can take away from the validation of the event that even took place.
Right, because you figure, well, you're a grown up now. So it's like exactly it didn't, but you saw some horrific things that nobody should see at a very young age, and your brain is being molded, not just you, but in general. I mean, your brain's being molded
Correct.
at that time. I mean, our the good thing about our brain that I learned after my brain damage is that it is moldable. It's a muscle. It can be rebuilt no matter what damage has been done to it. We can rebuild and rewire ourselves. And I'm like, bless you, God. You have given us so many great gifts and even the ability to heal. But
Absolutely.
we have to recognize that we have that power of healing. So, how do you do that?
Yeah, no, that's a there's a lot in that. There's a lot in that. And I know for myself, there's 10 years worth of in that, and there's still a process ongoing for
Right.
that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like validation is one of the in my belief is maybe one of those first steps that like let's actually recognize that something happens that needs to be processed, because even the individual then believes that maybe starts pawning on other things because we're not identifying the right thing. But the other piece is then being really honest with ourselves, and my biggest recommendation would be detaching yourself from the situation. We absolutely have hardwiring. We absolutely have seeds planted in our mental garden that grew into plants that we didn't even realize and we never even planted. So if we just take a step back and just view the garden as in what plants are here versus what plants do I own, it may give us the opportunity to realize what plants do we want removed from our garden.
Oh, that's really good because my question was going to be how do you validate without becoming creating a victim mentality? But if you remove yourself and look at the situations like that, I think that's the separation of probably what you did. I mean, this is a process, people. This is an ongoing process for the rest of your life until you're in the ground and your spirit goes wherever you believe that you go after that. But when you look at the things in your life outside of yourself, you
Absolutely.
can validate because these are actual facts. And then you can be like, oh, well, there's no place to be a victim when you do that. Or you can choose to be a victim. But that's a hard thing because validation and victimization, I don't know if I just made that up, but it sounded good, can play hand in hand. And I think that's where we are today in society. Do you think we're like that in
I
society? We
agree. No,
interchange those two?
absolutely. No, absolutely. And validation, the biggest piece is I know, and again, I just speak from my experiences. I obviously that's all I can speak from. But
Let's just put the
validation is
disclaimer out
around.
there. This is just this whole disclaimer. This is Danny and Greg's opinion. This is not science.
Yeah, yeah. But when you talk about the validation and victimization and hand in hand, ultimately, and that was honestly that was a big challenge for me. It probably took a couple years along the journey. And a big separating factor for me was realizing that I'm not a victim. I'm a leader. I'm going to take what happened to me and be able to share it to others. And then on the validation piece was, this was wrong. This shouldn't have happened to me. This shouldn't have to happen to anyone, because I'm going to use it to share with other people. That's what I'm choosing to do with it, but it wasn't allowed to happen. And
Mm.
yeah, realizing that the event did take place, it was real, and it shouldn't have taken place. And then what will I do with it from here moving forward?
Oh yeah, the power. You gave yourself your power back
Yeah,
instead of giving your power away. I know, we build, like you said, we build on these things, right? It's a seed that turns into a plant. I love that. Reminds me of the warrior um, garden with Malachias. But anyways, his whole premise on that. Um,
yeah.
that whole mindset of then going into the Marines and all of your deployments, is that why it became such an easy piece for you to be like, well, this is where I'm going to die? Like that gave you your honor and power.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I didn't even know. I really, now, mind you, as a victim, I didn't know what to even do with my life. Now, as a leader, I understood that later on in life, I understood that I need to educate myself what I was going to do with my life.
Yeah.
But as a victim at that time, I didn't even know what I would do with my life. And this was obviously honorable. So let's take it all the way through to an end here.
Yeah. So did that kind of make you feel, looking back? I mean, when we're in the moment, we're just in the moment. But when we look back, that's where I feel we learn our lessons. We don't always learn our lessons in the appropriate time that they are given to us. But looking back, were you do you feel that you were going through the motions of a story that you laid out that was gonna fix or create, but you weren't really in it? Does that make sense? I can see it visually in my mind, but
So essentially, let me paraphrase. Are you saying essentially? So I was playing out a story that I knew I had control of my mind. And I think if that's what you're saying, definitely I was. Playing out a story that I had control of in my mind, and that allowed me to, at some level, whatever level I evaluated it then, be successful in the accomplishment of this mission without having to deal with my issues.
yes, that's exactly what I was saying.
Absolutely.
Said it so much better, probably because you were living it. So then you come in, and this dream, this story that you had so perfectly laid out, and was your control, right? So this is what you could control out
Right.
of
Right.
everything else, was this plan. And then somewhere along the line, someone said, "Oh yeah, by the way, that's not
Can't do
happening,"
that. Right.
and they rip it from you.
Yeah, that was like I said again. That led me into that was in 2007. Was when I got diagnosed, and 2011 was ultimately the lowest point. So it was a spiral of bad decisions throughout the years. It wasn't a singular event. But again, it was. I mean, it felt like the weight of the world because really, I honestly I didn't know what to do. Now, again, today I realized the responsibility of figure out what to do. But instead of
Yeah.
figuring out, I just would wallow in, I don't know. So that was my badge of honor. That was my excuse. I don't have to because I don't know. But again, it was a blessing because it really kicked off my journey.
Yeah, and talk about that, because your journey is, you are motivational. You are, you're becoming. I mean, you have your career, which you're a
So
very
I do, yeah.
successful. Go ahead.
I'm
Fill
a
in the
realtor.
blanks.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'm a realtor. I do real estate, and then that's an avenue for me to help people network, expand, and then working on in things like writing a book and coaching courses and motivational speaking
Yeah.
in the background. Those are the actual passions.
That's what I was going to say. It's kind of blossoming and creating this place, this new journey that you're on. Talk to me
Correct.
about some of the things that really touch your heart to speak on, and that were. I feel like those things are the things that were life changing. Those were your pivoting points for you.
So the biggest thing, absolutely, and honestly, was the first thing I started with was forgiveness. And it sounds great, and it absolutely was the biggest pivoting point. And I know, well, I don't know, but my belief is that somewhere, whether it be you or someone else, the question is, how did you forgive, right? And because some people don't even understand the weight of things that were forgiven, and we won't even go into too depth today, but some unforgivable things happened. And then how do you forgive those things? I understand that question, and I wanted to pre-address it, and everyone will have to forgive me that I don't have an easy way for that. It took me several years. I went against my decision to forgive my stepmother several times over the years, and I had to re-up on that decision and that commitment to myself. The biggest piece was a commitment to myself. I thought that
Yeah.
if other humans could forgive, if there was a way that I was gonna do it. And emotionally, that was my logical mental thought. Emotionally, I hadn't processed what happened. So over the first, say, 5 years of this 9, 10 year journey, um, we went 2 steps forward, 1 step back constantly for 5 years. But I just wouldn't quit because of my mental commitment to myself that, hey, if someone else did it, I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
So I wish I had an easy way around it. Forgiveness was the biggest piece for sure. It gave me so much power, forgiving my stepmother for what happened, and honestly, forgiving myself for many years. So from the age of 3 to roughly speaking 10, I was in this situation, and I couldn't believe that I allowed myself to be there for that long, and I judged myself upon that like how weak of a person was I, and as a leader I wasn't able to do more because I was I judged myself as that weak of a person, but being able to forgive myself and understand that, hey, you're a child, and the fact of the matter is things happen in life and we got to get up and keep going.
Yeah, yeah. And I love how when you were talking, again, because I'm a visual person, so I see these things when people are talking, and you talked about forgiveness and you went forwards and backwards. And we make this commitment within ourselves. Like, I want to forgive because if I know I can forgive this person, if I know I can forgive myself, right? I know there's peace at the end of it. So you
Hmm.
can see that, and that drives that commitment. But I think we fail to realize that there are emotional steps that you have to take to be able to get to that forgiveness. So we see this end result, but we don't see all that work. And like you said, sometimes that work takes 5 years because you don't even know how deep it goes. And it's like this, you keep on peeling a layer where you think you're there, and then something triggers you, and you're like, son of a biscuit. I
Absolutely.
was not at step 10. I was at step 2. It just
Were you
felt like
watch were you watching my journey?
step 10.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, that's it. That's it for sure.
And then that doubt comes in, like, why can't I do this? I don't know if that's doubt or it's shame or what that is, but then we beat ourselves up because we're like, all these people have done this and I'm still
Right.
here. We
Right.
we then question it. So then what do you do with that question that you gave yourself? Because you're trying to reach this goal, but then now you have this question of,
Yeah, and honestly, there's two. So the two things that like jump out in my mind when you say that is, one is we talked about the other day a little bit around micro and macro goals. So we got to make some micro goals, and it might just be getting up and making the bed. It might just be getting presentable this morning because life might be that heavy for you. So it's okay to have you have to have micro goals, and your micro goals might be bigger than someone else's micro goals, and then having macro goals, and then obviously these big picture goals. But the other piece that's really important, and I allowed myself to go a long way without it due to embarrassment. But there's nothing to be embarrassed about, and anyone that I can definitely help with, get a mentor. They're going to help remind you back on the course where you need to be,
yeah.
because when you're taking the course on your own, it's definitely easy to get lost in your own mind. There's no questions
Mhm.
asked.
It is true. I always say, like, when I coach, I'm a very different coach. I don't want to be your coach for long term, because then I feel we get there's a difference, right, between the mentor, coach, a therapist. Very, very, very big difference. It's like, let's solve the problem and work on that problem. And I think so, more than coaching, it might be even more mentorship, because it's not a crutch. We all have the power within us. We just sometimes need someone else's perspective that
Absolutely.
ignites what we know.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. And
so
it makes a big difference too. Like you said, yeah, like you said, ignite mode. We already know it to be true, but framed under different, two different contexts, it means two different things to us. Especially when we allow our mind to be alone, or we allowed ourselves to be our own preacher and choir.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, Jim made a comment here. That is one of the biggest things: forgiving oneself, whether as a child or combat vet that has lost a troop. It's
Absolutely.
and then it makes us question, or me question. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I'm so glad we brought it up, is testing our beliefs. Do we believe that everything is perfectly placed? I mean, if I'm speaking on like a faith based, so if you don't believe in God
Yeah.
or that kind of thing, just plug your ears, do whatever. I don't know, but this is what I'm talking about. But if we believe everything's perfectly placed, and if we believe God gives us nothing that we can handle, and if we believe He has the path that's set forth, and these are the lessons that He is blessing us with this to learn, then how do we keep beating ourselves up? Because all of these things, as horrific as they might feel, are, God's in control. So, right, so it's testing that faith thing, so it brings it to into a whole different level. But that was like on my heart today. So funny that we're having this conversation now on that.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's there's no easy way around that. And I do believe, no questions asked, when what you said, if I didn't have all the experiences I had, I would not be able to give back in the manner that I give back today, and who knows, in the times to come, I would not be able to. Now, I don't encourage anyone to have to go through that, but I understand now the value of it. So I think your question is a little bit more around like in the heat of the moment when we're beating ourselves up, how do we not? And that's really hard. There's no easy way, and I would again suggest maybe a little bit of trying to detach and see what is the lesson from there that can be learned that we can then pay forward.
Yeah.
But there's no easy way around it.
Yeah. And maybe that's probably a good time. It's a perfect example of when you have that mentorship or that coach or whatever it is that you feel drawn to.
Hmm.
In that moment, if we can just allow ourselves in that moment of our extreme pain to be vulnerable enough to send the
Vulnerable, yeah,
message or create the phone call of exactly the craziness that we are telling ourselves, that is, I think, when those tools of other people can kind of snap you back to the actual truth, not the false
absolutely agree.
reality that we've created.
Yep. As a comfort zone. Yep. No, I absolutely agree. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, wow. I feel so much better. Thank you. Thank you for that therapy session.
Thank you. That was awesome.
And so that made the dose of digital go really, really fast. So to encompass all of this today and all the value and content that you gave, I asked you to answer my last question from your heart. The first thing that comes to your mind, no holding back. In this moment right now, Greg, what does love mean to you?
Uh, that's a good question. I would suggest patience. Yeah, I would say patience. I'm not. Yeah, you stumped me. I mean, I had to think about that for a second. I would say patience.
Yeah.
Love means patience. And honestly, because at the end of the day, we're all broken in some manner. So in order for us to love someone else or someone else to love us, we need patience. So that's what came to my mind.
Well, it is sometimes, whatever comes, I always say you have to answer it with the first thing because as crazy as it is, that's in this moment. And love's a fluid, rippling thing. So tomorrow it could be something totally else if I asked it to you. So it's like one of those things that you got to talk with whatever the craziness that comes out. And I mean, it's not crazy. Patience,
Yeah,
that's a good one. But
yeah, yeah,
sometimes it
yeah.
seems crazy. Like love means patience. Like, yes, in this moment right now, that is what it means to you.
Absolutely.
It's a fun little game you can play. You can play with your wife, just like pop quiz each other every now and then. And the first thing that comes, you'll be like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Oh, maybe we need to work on me being forgiving," or me.
Right. That's true.
It
That's
is.
true.
Greg, thank you so much for just holding out, being tough, being that powerful leader that you are, and now taking on a new journey of really, sharing and being that mentor and that motivational speaker and putting the courses together because we need that. We need people exactly like you, that people like me, I'll be like, well, I'll be taking that sucker. Like it's good to
Yeah.
it's good. It's good. So thank you so much. And to everybody else that's out there, always remember, love hard, love pure, and love proactive. And until next time, we will see you later. Take care.